Hello everybody in the Hearth space, and hello everybody who's catching up with this as a recording. It's Middle Earth Readings. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham. I'm your host today, looking at the movements of the planets through the runic wheel, what they mean for us in terms of our weird weaving and flowing with them and using the luck and the energies and sometimes challenges that they provide us. We are at a slightly later time than normal. It's just past 4 o'clock actually, because I had some, I'm still getting used to this new computer, but we're getting there. Normally we meet at 11 on a Monday, but it is the Easter holidays, and so childcare means I'm here today at this time. I know that those of you who are in the Hearth space, some of you have shared with Suzanne your runes for the week ahead. So thank you very much for those, and hello to those of you who are able to join me live at this time. Hi Esther, lovely to see you. I can see you already sharing your runes, which is great. So for those of you who are joining me live, please do share the rune that you've drawn for yourself for the week ahead, and we'll look at how that aligns with and works with the movements of the planets and what's happening with the runes at the moment. So there is first of all, I want to say that we are getting to the end of the half month of Ewaz, which is the rune of speed and partnership. It's the horse and the rider, and it can be somewhat of a tricky rune, and I say that with love because it's in my birth runes twice, so I love it very much. But I am quite grateful that today is the last day in the half month of Ewaz. We've had 2 weeks in Ewaz. We're moving into Manaz, but last week was quite a busy week in terms of planetary movements, and this week is the same. So I don't want to say that there's a continuation of the challenge, but it's worth that. Forewarned is forearmed, is I suppose the way that I would look at it. So we're moving into the half month of Manaz, the rune of the divine within humanity. It's all about us being able to access and connect with our sovereign identity, the part of us that is mature, is able to integrate all of the different stuff that's going on. It is experienced. It understands what's happening when we have emotional responses. It understands what happens when we have limiting beliefs popping up, and it knows what to do with them, even if what to do with them is either to do nothing or to ask for help. You know, there is a wisdom that comes with the Manaz rune, which the Ewaz rune promotes, because the Ewaz rune is about asking for help. As well as, you can have a bit of impatience and flow, and it's very much about collaboration, which is great when it's working well, but it can also be quite tempestuous at the same time. We've got 4 planetary movements this week, and what's really present to me is in looking at them is this sense that we can have these moments of great that I would think of them as being like reference experiences, that when we look back on them in the past, we go, oh wow, that told me something about myself, or I learned that in this moment. It's in a film. What they do is they have this sort of like the warriors are going forward and they go charge, and then everything goes into slow motion. It's all in slow mo, and you have the dramatic music playing, and you do that so that the audience can process what is happening. Oh, we are now understanding that the hero of this piece is mighty and brave, but look in the background, you can see that one who is a bit dodgy over there, they're retreating a little bit, and you can see the expression on their face that they're fully committed. So we as an audience, in a filmic version of what would be going on, we would get to see what was happening and say, oh, okay, this is something that I'll take away. What often happens for us in reality is that, a challenge comes up, or a moment where we are revealed to ourselves. We are stronger than we thought we are, or we're not as strong as we thought we are, or we went into something in a different way to the way we expected. We showed up in a different way. That can often happen in a split second, and we don't even realise that it's happening in the moment. And sometimes, we can look back on it retrospectively and we can say, oh, that actually happened. But often the integration of that happens much later, and sometimes we don't even process that. We don't even recognise it in ourselves. So through the course of this week, my invitation to you would be to look at anything that's coming up for you that does give you a sense of, this is helping me, this has helped me too, or this is helping me feel into who I am and how I want to respond in the moment and how I want to show up in the world. And, and you won't always have the chance to think about it, but you might have a chance to say, oh, no, what did I learn about myself from this? You know, and to take that moment. Because it's the half month of Manaz as well, I always use the half month of Manaz as a really good time to do a bit of reviewing as well, of where was I at this time last year? How was I showing up in the world then? What have I built since that point? So we can use the energies and the movements of the planet through the course of this week, and you know what's happening, to help us to understand that there might be moments where we're like, oh, you know, this feels like a challenge, but it is going to reveal something about me through it. But we can also use this week and next week as a chance to look over the year and do a bit of a review. So I've said that we have Suna's chariot moving into Manaz, so that's happening tomorrow on the 12th. So do, you know, use that time to think about how far have I come, how far in particular you will want to look at are things like how far am I living my most self-expressed life, my most purposeful life, my most fulfilled life. How far have I stepped forward into that? It's not always a case of, oh, this year is better than last year. Sometimes it's a case of I understand myself more fully as well. And, you know, if you think about, talk about this sort of the sovereign identity, that can be about saying, you know, the more self-aware we are, we are so much more able to bring our best selves out into the world. So what has this past year gifted me in terms of my sense of my sovereign identity, my self-awareness, my self-expression, my purpose and my fulfillment will come through. You may also find through the course of the half month of Manaz that you get challenges that come in that challenge that sovereign identity just a little bit, and that's what they're doing. They're basically like revealing that to you. And so the reminder from me would be to say, you know, you get to choose. You always get to choose. So how do I want to show up? And thinking about moments, again, for this week, but you could also look in the past, where, yes, I have been led by my sovereign self, by the part of me that understands the importance of, you know, taking care of myself, being in self-expression, using my greatest talents, not wasting what I've been given, leading even when I'm not entirely sure, you know, stepping into leadership when I feel a call to service, all of those sorts of things are, you know, the sovereign self. But we also have the ego, who wants to feel important. We've got the armour, you know, the bits of ourselves that have been put there to protect us from stuff that we didn't like in the past. And so we show up and, you know, it's like, I'm not going to seize that opportunity because I can't, because my arm is there. And we've got energetic ties as well, energetic ties to other people. So it's a useful time to be going, okay, you know, am I taking my decisions from those energetic ties, you know, my sense of obligation to others, or am I doing it with my armour on to protect myself, or am I doing it because I want to feel good about myself, as opposed to I'm doing it because I feel that there's a cause that's important to me, or this gives me so much pleasure and joy to just do this. You know, those are good reasons for doing it. So you've got all of that coming through the half month of Manaz. Then we've got the Frigg's chariot, so the Roman equivalent is Venus, is moving into Tewaz. Let me see if actually if I can, I'll flick through and show you the runes as we're going through them. I've got my deck here. So Frigg's chariot is moving into Tewaz, and Tewaz is the rune of action. Here we go, it's the Tewaz rune. It's the rune of action. But when I saw this, and I was like, oh, you know, okay, I can really feel into that. You know, I remember I talked about those moments where we feel into something. We go, you know. So imagine the moment where Frigg, who has spent years away from her family, going out into the world to stop a prophecy which she herself had prophesied. She received a prophecy that her son Balder was going to die. And so she went out into all of the world and she took oaths from every single entity, you know, the elements, the plants, the flowers, the rocks, the stones, the people, the beings, and all of those. She took oaths to say, I will not harm Balder. And then she returns. And Balder is basically, you know, impregnable at this point. He cannot be harmed. And, you know, for those of you who know the myth, then Loki guides Balder's blind by the heart to chuck a mistletoe dart at him. And Frigg hadn't asked the mistletoe because she saw it as being so weak, you know. So I want you to imagine the slow-mo moment for Frigg, where she's there and she's looking at her son and Balder. You know, Balder is a young man. He's out in the field and he's saying, oh, throw stuff at me, gods! And they're all chucking stuff at him because it just goes boom, it just bounces off him. And then Hod throws the mistletoe dart. And the slow-mo comes. And we don't know whether Frigg saw the dart or maybe saw the shadow of Loki behind Hod and just had this feeling. Or whether she was absolutely fine until the moment that the dart penetrated through that energetic shield, that shield of oaths that had been created around Balder. But there's this moment where her heart goes and it skips. And she realises that all of her work to stop this prophecy from happening was for nothing. And a new path spreads out in front of her, a path where her son is lost to her and where she is going to have to live without him. You know? That's going to have to happen. And there are times when, our part of our brain does all of that computation in the moment. It does all of the and then the rest of the brain shuts down and goes no, and then the emotions go no, and everything else goes no, and the armor comes on and says no, and we ignore that bit. And and Frigg and Odin, they do send down like emissaries. They're down to the underworld to try and get Balder back, and it doesn't work. But there was a part of Frigg that knew. So there is this reference experience, and what I'm feeling with that is partially what I've said about feeling into these moments and saying what do they teach me. But what's also coming through to me is this sense that we need to grieve. We have to grieve for what has been lost, whether we chose to sacrifice it or not. Sometimes the things that we lose, we from a place of power decided, no, that's not right for me, but that doesn't mean we don't still grieve. Sometimes absolutely not something that we chose, and it's awful, and that part of us, this rebellion inside that goes, no, I'm not able to accept this version of reality. But the grieving process is essential. And so what Frigg is counselling us to is she's saying, no, let yourself feel and let yourself express, so that you don't live in armour, you don't live in the place where you are numb because you can't feel any emotion because you've pressed down them all, and we can't select which emotions we press down, we just press down all of them. And what might be useful as well, bearing in mind that, if you do your review and look at the year, would be to look at which points in the year, in your annual cycle, do you choose to open to grief? Because if you look at, we do have it with Easter, with the Christian Easter, we do have that grieving time, and I think that's actually really important. Part of any spiritual tradition. So here in the UK, where Christianity is our what's the word, official religion, we do have that moment of grief, but they're not regular in that sense. And what we don't always do is we don't always look at a lot of our festivals. If you think about Easter and Ostara that came before it, it's that balance. The balance of the year, sort of spring equinox time, is that grieving for the old year and the bringing of the new, that perfect balance. And when we have summer, we have the cutting of the corn that comes down. So there is a grieving for the god, for Ing, who we're working with in his guise as Frey at the moment in the heart space. This sense of the god who sacrifices himself and goes down into the underworld. And we have ancestral rites. We move into the autumn, and there is the tradition of releasing prisoners of that time is also releasing old emotions and grieving. And even through into Yule and the darker times and the winter times, there are times for pleasure and joy, and there are times for grief, and there is that balance. So the question is really, where do you allow grief to come through? Because I don't know about you, but in my experience, grief comes in waves, and when it first starts out, it's just you're under the water. You're in the water, and it's just coming. It's overwhelming, and then it starts to get to that point where it becomes more rhythmic. And for those of us who experience that profound grief, it never goes away entirely, but we learn to weave it into the tapestry of our lives. So that's what Frigg really wanted to bring through very strongly at this point, was to say, where is your space for grief? Because that's an important part of our of tending to ourselves and of tending to our souls. So then we have Odin in Largus, and he to a certain extent extends this theme with Frigg, in that, Odin in Lagos again, let's imagine at this point, Lagos is the rune of water, and water is a gateway, it's a gateway of life and of death. I'm just flicking through my runes so I can see if I can find it for you. And what I see here is Odin suspended over the world tree, and what Odin does is he wounds himself with his own spear, climbs up onto the world tree, he wounds himself, he hangs upon the world tree, and he waits for 9 days and 9 nights, and no one is allowed to give him any succor. And this is like a shamanic initiatory experience is the way that I see it. Here's our Lagos rune here, so Odin and Lagos. And then there is again this moment which we hear of where he falls. Imagine that he's been building and building, and he's bleeding from this wound, and he is dissolving. His sense of self is dissolving. His conscious mind is dissolving. His edges are dissolving. He's expanding outwards further and further and further, losing more and more of himself in the process. You can see the sort of grief process that I was talking about with Frigg is also key for this understanding of Odin and Lagos. And he falls at the moment where he is fully expanded out into that oneness. And my understanding, and there's a lot of commentators would say the same, the text is doesn't give, it's not everything explicit because it's poetic, is that he falls down into the well of weird, into the waters of weird themselves. And as he does so, before he falls into, he lets out this great roar, and the runes are born from that. And so Odin's chariot in Lagos talks about wounding. And it is the idea that we can't understand ourselves as whole, the amazingness of being whole, of feeling everything, of feeling joy and grief and sorrow and anger and rage and frustration and ecstasy and love and compassion and playfulness and laughter and all of these things, and become whole and accept ourselves exactly in the moment as we are, without wanting to fix anything, without wanting to change anything. When we can look at the people around us and not want to fix them or change them, we can just fall in a moment. Not all the time, because most of us want to go out there and change stuff, make it better. But in that moment, there is a wholeness. But in order to understand that wholeness, wounding has to have occurred, because otherwise we don't know it, we can't feel it. It's similar to the mana self, that experienced self. Without experience, without scars, without age, we don't know the preciousness. It's one of the beautiful things, and tragic things, I suppose, about life and existence. And so there is this sense of a spiritual component as well as a practical component. So mana is reasonably practical in terms of it. I'm looking out there into the world. What am I going to do? What am I going to achieve? What have I done? Odin in Lagos is much more about being, that sort of sense of beingness. It reminds me, somebody said to me a couple of weeks ago, and it really hit home for me. She said, the word alone, the original stems originally from the idea of oneness or unity. And I was like, so Odin goes out and he's wounded and he's alone, and no help is coming, and then he finds that oneness within that. It's Odin's chariot in Lagos, which is in the 14th. So there are opportunities for profound healing when we are willing to shed those layers. And some of those layers, we love them and we want to keep them. Those things that have protected us and served us well. And then we have, on the 16th, I would say, I've not written down the date, but I'm fairly certain it's the 16th. If it's not, correct me in the chat box. We have a full moon in Runyo. And this is a lovely thing. And it again couples very beautifully. It couples very beautifully with Odin in Lagos. So Runyo is the rune of fulfillment and joy and ecstasy and family and wish fulfillment and winning and pleasure and all of these lovely things. And a full moon in that can be no bad thing. And for me, it's that sense of through the course of this week, with the sort of ups and downs, and I'm feeling like the turbulence of Elwaz, and I'm hoping for a little bit of more calmness coming through in this first half of the half month of Manaz, through this course of this week. There is a little bit of looking into themes and patterns and releasing, letting go, and finding what's there. Oh, hello. And then the full moon comes along and it says, you know what, sometimes it's okay to feel pleasure and pain at the same time. You know, to expand yourself to everything and not just to say, okay, in this moment I am happy and I don't want anything else to come in, and to say, actually, you know, as human beings, we are capable of feeling a whole mix of fabulous and not so fabulous, you know, emotions at the same time and states of being at the same time. And it comes back to that piece that I was talking about with Odin, sort of expanding and dissolving. And so Wunjo, here we go, it's Wunjo, invites us into a celebration of that, you know, of I've done some work and I've looked and I've gone, oh yeah, you know, I've done some great things this year, or oh God, it's been really, really hideous this year, whatever it is, it says, and now celebrate it, you know, celebrate it and feel it, and let the full moon witness you. You know, Mani, the man in the moon, is there carrying the orb of the moon in his chariot, looking down on humanity, loving every single one of us passionately and ardently, and just saying, yeah, I'm okay being witnessed in my entirety, in my wholeness through the course of this full moon. So it is a powerful week. There are real opportunities here. There are some challenges too, but I wish you all of the blessings of that Wunjo full moon, all of the healing potential of Lagus, all of the direction and sense of what's required, and stepping up to what's required, even if what's required is to feel a bit miserable with frigging Tewaz, and all of that sense of stepping into further sovereignty, more and more powerful sovereignty in yourself through the course of the week. So let's have a look for those of you who join me live. I can see there's lots of you. Hello. At your room. So Esther, you have got Perthro for the week. So that is going to that's going to really tune into the tail end of the Ehwaz energies, with that need to be agile and flexible in the moment, and recognise that sometimes things might continue to feel as if they're changing quite a lot. And I think the key for you there is almost recognising that instead of feeling the Perthro energy, so Perthro is the rune of uncertainty and change, but it's also laughter and mystery and luck and all of those things coming together. I think the key for you is almost recognising that when we see the Perthro rune as happening to us, it can feel disempowering. When we feel the Perthro rune as being within us and emanating from us, it can feel incredibly empowering. I think about it as the difference between, I'm one of those people, I get car sick, you know, when I'm in a car and I'm not driving. When I'm driving, I'm fine, I have no problem whatsoever. When I'm a passenger, I feel awful and I have to travel with my eyes shut. And it's because I don't feel it, I don't know where the car is shifting to next, you know, so I can't follow its movements and I can't follow exactly what's happening and where I would send it on the road. So it's almost sort of saying, accepting the Perthro rune within you. So I would maybe do some energy waving with the Perthro rune, and look for the gift of the Perthro rune. Perhaps go and have a look at my webpage on the Perthro rune and feel into claim it as yours, and that will help it to feel more as if you are riding and part of the currents of Perthro as they go through. And I think that's part of claiming your sovereign nature there, Esther, is recognising the mystery and the power of Perthro within yourself. Now Cheryl, you have almost the opposite there in terms of energies with your Isa rune. So Perthro, you know, is the waters of weird, and it's flowing and it's changing and it's shaping, and Isa is the ice. You know, it's a single line, the capital letter I basically comes from the Isa rune. Here we are, Isa, the ice bridge. So that will plug in more into your Manaz rune, your rune of sovereignty. And it will plug in as well into your Wunjo rune. It's that sense of serenity. And whereas for Esther, apologies, that's a cat. Whereas for Esther it was about accepting the Perthro energies within herself. For you it's accepting the Isa energies within yourself. And it might be worth bearing in mind. It might be worth bearing in mind that for all of the runes coming up through the course of the half month of Manaz, because it's about sovereign identity, often what the runes are doing is giving you clues to something that you need to claim for yourself. So Cheryl, there is that real grace and poise and stillness and serenity in the Isa rune. You can use the affirmation like, I am. You know, it's really calm in that sense. And just the opposite of what the cat is doing, really, isn't it? Just do what he's not doing, basically, Cheryl, and you'll be fine. And allowing any cord cuttings, I was talking about sort of energetic ties, so cord cutting will be important for you, because it's almost like, imagine that the Isa rune is a pillar. Right? So it's a pillar, and what you don't want is other people's stuff pulling you off your centre of gravity. So what you might want to do is to think about imagining cords of light attached to you. Some of you will be familiar with these techniques, others less so. And they're not bad. You know, a lot of people when they go and do cord cutting will be like, oh, you know, this is terrible. And you can go and have a wonderful cord cutting session, and they will help you to find like bad old ties to people. But what we're looking at, Cheryl, at this moment is just energetic ties that form naturally through the course of the week. So you can see them as white light that's formed where you've connected with somebody. Perhaps you've been in sympathy or empathy with them. There's been a shared project or something that, you know, you've shared something and a cord has been formed. So all you do is just imagine that you cut the cord and see it separating almost like a cobweb. So it's very gentle, and your light goes back to you and their light goes back to them, and it keeps you in your centre of gravity. So serenity, stillness, giving yourself time for that, and mindfulness are very important for the Isa rune. Felicity, you have your Keena's rune. We're shifting energies very fast. It must be the Eras, I blame Eras. It hasn't taught me enough lessons that that's what it is for the course of these 2 weeks. So Keena's rune is the rune of fire. So we've had Isa, now we're moving to Keena's with fire. It's, you know, there are other runes that resonate with fire energy as well, but Keena's is the torch, it's enlightenment, it's creativity, it's knowledge, it's the burning flame of, you know, I need to move forward and learn stuff and create. And again, I think that I'm really feeling that sense of honouring that within you through the course of this week. So I know that, Felicity, I know that you do quite a lot of creative work anyway, but it's really about honouring that in yourself, making sure that you have time for it, and recognising the different facets of that as well. So it can be creation with your hands, it can be about reading and bringing knowledge in. What do you do with that? Seeing almost like the forge, you know, the Smith's forge inside you. Ooh, that's a bit of magic, isn't it? So, you know, we've got Esther with her mystery, and we've got Cheryl with her serenity, we've got Felicity now with the forge burning inside her. So that everything that goes in is transformed in some way. And I think that for you, one of the keys there is recognising that it's not that we have to ever read a book and then push everything that we've learned out into the world to be of value. It might be that there is a single word of a book that at some point you share with somebody else, and it's going to be like a sort of little spark of something that creates, you know, exponentially. But equally, energetically, the act of receiving somebody else's work, you know, whether it's a book or a film or music, whatever it is just as much a creative moment. And so I think it's honouring that within yourself as well, and saying, actually, to receive this into my forge, right, the forge of me, is to perform a form of exchange, a form of creative exchange with another being. You know? So there's similarities there with Cheryl, and she's cutting cords, and yours is there's more of a golden, yes, there's a moment of exchange, and I feel it, and then almost on the breath, releasing out and saying, oh, my work is done here. You know, I might not have to do anything else with this book or with this piece of art or whatever it is in the moment. So allow yourself to receive, and then allow yourself to express outwards, even if it's just energetically on the breath, and perhaps something else will come later. But it's that recognition that just by receiving other people's work in you, you become the forge, and the transformative fire within you is reaching. So, that's nice, isn't it? Darren, you have got Thurisaz. So there is fire within Thurisaz, but there's also this, it's very passionate, protective. There's earth within it as well. you know, the thorns that rise up to protect they've got, you know, imagine like the juicy berries that come on the thorns, and we've got the little animals that are there, and the thorns will, you know, they allow the little animals through, but they don't allow everything through. So the thorns are there to protect the berries and make sure that the right creatures come and have them, and then, you know, their seeds will be sown. So there is a real protective energy in there. We've got the lightning, the thunder in there as well. So it's a really primal energy with the Thurisaz rune. So Darren, I would think that would be about claiming your own power. And the Thurisaz rune can be a bit tricky for some of us, because in our society we don't always have, we haven't developed the healthiest ways of expressing our Thurisaz power. You know, that part of us that is able to and strong enough to face and become one with the darkness. You know, I was talking about unity and that we dissolve and we become everything. It's like part of us is the Thurisaz rune. We have that deep tenacity, because if we didn't, we wouldn't have survived as a species. You know, so it's that ability to do what is absolutely required when it is required. Here we go, Thurisaz rune there. And I'm just saying this off the top of my head, but it's coming to me. It's just coming out, so I'm just going to say it. I think part of the challenge of our society at this present time is that we civilise and we clinicize and we regiment and regulate and we make everything into a product and we try and control everything. And then what happens is, because that's not natural, you know, when you talk about yin and natural law, working within yin and natural law as our theme, which is perhaps like this is coming through. What happens then is that the Thurisaz energy, imagine here, if we turn the Thurisaz rune, so there is as a thorn, but I often work with it as a mountain. Imagine that this is the control, the line of control, and the Thurisaz rune comes bursting through like a volcano, you know? Oh, you know. So what we want to do with that is we want to look at what are the ways in which I am able to express the strength of my emotions in ways that are healthy and, you know, fulfilling and enriching. And it does take exploration, you know, because we don't have that many ways of doing it. You know, how many times do people allow our sort of primal roar to come out of there? You know, not very often. And we need to do it, but it's a bit like grief. Let's say we're talking about where is our expression for grief. What you want to look at there is like, where is my expression for my primal roar? You know, for some people it's going to be a football match, isn't it? You know, that's one of the ways in which we can still do it, because we have that sort of camaraderie and that sense of like being one and being in the moment. For some people it's sport. For some people, you know, I do great classes where we get to do, you know, this sort of belly screaming, so lovely, I love it, and dancing, you know, real full-on primal dancing. For some people it's going out into the wild, you know, camping out at night and putting yourself, what's the word that I'm looking for? People talk about pitting themselves against nature, but I think it's more claiming yourself as being part of nature is what I'm getting at here. So where is the outlet for your wild side and your primal roar and that part of you as well, because we're claiming all of those things. So I hope that's helpful for you, Darren, and for anybody else who has Thurisaz as well. Diane, you have Iwaz. So Iwaz, the rune of defence, the rune of its strength. So Thurisaz is a protective rune, but it's a fiercely protective rune. Iwaz is a protective rune, but it's the staff. You know, that sometimes you can see off the corner, I have my staff over here. She's my green staff. She's always in this space. She's my Iwaz staff, albeit she's a silver birch. She's not a yew, but you know, she's guarding and protecting. She has eyes painted on her. She has 8 eyes and then a crystal at the top, which is like the 9 rounds, the way that I see it. And so Iwaz is that protective energy, but it's very stable and still. It is deeply rooted into the earth, drawing up the power that you need from the earth. It is deeply connected to the stars, drawing the power of the stars down inside you. It is preserving of your energy. I'm just trying to look through while I'm feeling very inspired by the Iwaz rune. Here we go, here's the Iwaz rune. There's our Iwaz rune. So you can see it's a bit like the Issa rune with the, you know, the sort of belly screaming. So lovely, I love it. And dancing, you know, real full-on primal dancing. For some people it's going out into the wild, you know, the line is sort of, but there, instead of serenity, it's the power of stillness, and the rootedness. Whereas Isa can be, pulled off course. I was, no, not going to happen. There are the roots going down. It's connected above and below. And so I think that what this is saying, and again, I think this is for anybody who has IWAS through the course, particularly this Manaz period of time, these 2 weeks, is recognise your own strength. Recognise how strong you are, how rooted you are, how connected you are, how all of the things that you have used to survive and thrive until this point, and claim those things for yourself. You are the tree. Its roots deep into the earth. Some of you will remember in the Heart Space last year we did a whole piece on walking while rooted, and looking at our ancestral connections. The Norse people saw us as being descended from trees. So it's claiming your strength. Claiming your strength and recognising it. And it's not that roaring Ayahuasca strength, and it's not that beautiful, serene, peaceful Isa strength. I'm sort of looking at you bare and boiling through my eyes now in an attempt to show the Isa strength there. It is much more rooted and grounded and being part of, and recognising again. There is a similarity with the Manaz during there, I think, just in terms of experience. Whereas Manaz is in a conscious mind, Ayahuasca is more connected to the body and instinct in some ways. Manaz is more conscious, but there is a sense of claiming power within that too. Chen, you have Kina. So we've covered Kina, so Felicity, so I'm going to ask you to do the same. How are you going to honour your creative side, your creative self, both in terms of what you express out into the world, but also in terms of thinking about the creative hub within you, honouring that, the sacredness of that. Lisa, you have Perfo. Again, we've covered Perfo with Esther. So there is that sense of claiming yourself as a magical being with the ability to see beyond what's directly in front of you, with the ability to shape and change, not just through hard work, but through manifestation and through drawing in luck. It's claiming that part of yourself and honouring it there. Now Suzanne comes, and I imagine Suzanne is there, and she's got her rooms, and she's carrying everybody else's rooms as well. So thank you, Suzanne. So you have got Wunyo, so you're preparing for our lovely full moon in Wunyo. And again, it's therefore about saying, how can you honour that Wunyo force within you? That joy-bringing, ecstatic self. And it's recognising, I think, that there's 2 bits there. So there's the ecstatic self that often finds itself alone. The Wunyo rune is both a connector, so it's very much about belonging, but it's recognising that we can feel a sense of belonging when we're alone, just as much as we can feel a sense of belonging when we're with close friends, or when we're with a big group of people and we're all singing the same song together. There are different ways in which we can experience belonging. And so Wunyo will be calling you into all of those. But it's also, as well as that ecstasy, there is that joy maker self. So it's honouring that within you too, and your ability to, what's the word I'm looking? Almost like embody that Wunyo energy and bring it into whatever space you are in. So if you go into the woods, let's say, you leave the woods more healed, more serene, calm, whatever it is that you do than when you left it by honouring that place. When you go into a group of people, you are the one who was like, I'm very happy to collate people's rooms and bring them into this space and do that. So there is a joy maker function within that as well, and a kinship building function, just honouring those things within you. Troy has Ehwaz, so you're going to be feeling the Ehwaz rune continuing. So we're just finishing the half month of Ehwaz, but that's going to be continuing a little bit for you. And again, what you will be looking for there is looking at how has the power of collaboration showed up for you in your life. How have you influenced, or how have you allowed yourself to be influenced? How have you opened to teaching, mentoring, guidance, so that you can then bring that out into the world. It's that flow of energy from one person into another, and from one place into another, and recognizing that within yourself, sort of saying, how does that come about? And also recognizing with those types of things, with the Ehwaz power, we often think, oh, that's something that a person's just naturally good at. You know, they're naturally good at persuading, or they're naturally good at making somebody feel comfortable in the moment, or you know, they're naturally good at remembering people's names. You know, whatever it is. You know, and it's recognizing just because they're naturally good at it doesn't mean that we shouldn't celebrate it. You know, also doesn't mean that we can't hone those skills more. So it is about looking at how have I worked through the course of my life to hone those abilities gifted to me by Ehwaz, in terms of, I've talked about sort of influencing and negotiating, also in terms of connecting the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. So, you know, if you've ever kept a dream diary, or if you listen to your subconscious, and if you listen to your instincts and your intuitions, it's recognising that. And just spending a little bit of time, and I've talked about doing a review, that might be quite useful for you, is to look at, when I followed my deepest intuitions, what's happened? You know, when I've done that in the past, what's happened? And how have you been able to integrate your different forms of knowing? Analytical mind, intuitive mind, instinctive mind. How do they work together is the piece that I'm going to suggest for you. And I think just that sense as well, perhaps with the Ehwaz rune, of making sure that you give yourself time for that, because the Ehwaz rune can want to speed on through stuff and miss the moment. You know, so it's almost saying, actually, you know, I can honour that in myself by taking a bit of time. So if there's an opportunity to slow down at all through the course of this week, I would suggest meditating it. Claire has Rado, and Erica also has Rado. So the rune of rhythm, and the road, and travel, and ritual. Hold on, I just got my screen going a bit funny there. There we go, we're going back to that. Rado. I've taken a bit of a moment on that, because Rado is quite an important rune for me. Here we go. Here's our Rado, so you can see the capital R within the Rado rune. And you can see how I'm slowing a little bit with the Rado rune. So the Ehwaz rune that we've just been discussing, and the Rado rune are two of my birth runes, two of my really important hero maker birth runes. And whenever I want to slow down from that Ehwaz rune, Rado is a great place to go, because Ehwaz is speeding forwards. You can imagine a horse with its head like forwards and sort of charging forwards. Rado is when you know that the journey is going to be a long one, and so you need to pace. So it's that sense of being able to give pace. It's recognising within yourself the ability to create ritual and sacred space, and the honouring of the journey for yourself and for others. There is a sense of spiritual matriarchy or spiritual leadership that comes there. And I have found that is one of the lessons of Rado for me, and I think that it feels to me as if it is a lesson that the Rado rune wishes to teach us. That when we look at the road and travel from our modern minds, we go, oh yeah, I need to push forward. You know, what's on my to-do list? What's the next thing? We get on we get into the rat race, you know, that is our cultural norm of sort of getting onto the ladder of success in there. And what Rado says is that's not the point of the journey. You know, it isn't about success, and it isn't about the end point. It is about the way in which we conduct ourselves on that journey, and it is the way in which we bring divine timing and the sacred into each moment, each step, into our habits and our rituals, wherever we are holding them. And we bring that, you know, if we are fully embodied in our Rado power, we bring that wherever we are, whatever stage of the journey we're on, you know, however, whether we're, you know, leading hundreds of people, or whether we're sort of in our family homes, or whether we're sort of on our own, travelling through the world and going to destinations that we don't know, you know, feeling, you know, perhaps sort of isolated and alone. We bring that Rado power, the ability to create ritual, the ability to pace, the ability to not rush, neither rush nor stay too still. Now, all of these things come to pass with the radar room. So with Erica and with Claire, that's what I'm going to suggest that you look into, both in terms of honouring that in yourself, as looking back over life, but looking for that as well through the course of this week. What are the opportunities that I have to express that radar energy more? Marie, you have Athala, the rune of the ancestors, the rune of inheritance, the rune of the estate. And there is a sense there, again, for me, of honouring yourself. Whereas I was talking about a sense of, spiritual matriarchy, which you take with you, as Radar is the journey, wherever you are, you're in that place. Athala brings a centering, a sense of recognising where others come to you for safety, stability, security, the way in which we can tend our own hearts and bring the sacred into those. So maybe that's why yours have come together, Radar and Athala, because Radar is the traveller, it's the traveller who brings the sacred wherever they go. Athala is the mistress of the land. I'm saying mistress because it's you, but it's having mastery of land magics, of knowing what's needed in the hearth, of giving people that sense of security, of tending to legacy, of honouring the ancestors, of the word just safety just keeps coming to my mind, Marie, for you. It's that real sense that of what other people look to you for. And it's perhaps also that sense that the deeper you are able to root into your own connection to, your spirituality, your land, your home, your self-expression. We've talked about that with the Manas rune. The more you inspire that in others, you can think of the Athala rune as being the long-term legacy of Manas. When we're in our sovereign selves, we will automatically create, the estate and the legacy. And it's not just about, it's not wealth or land or, a company or, a big thing. It is also, the cultures that we've created and we've contributed to, and the stories that we have provided, and the moments of joy that we have created. So it's recognising that within you, Marie, that's a gift that you give to others as well. And I can't remember who it was that I was saying. Was it Felicity? That sense that you can't help but be that way. It's not something that you need to keep on trying at. It's something that you can be gentle with. You think, I need to be more of a father. I need to create more of a legacy. It's almost like saying you can't help but create a legacy because of your nature and because of who you are. So doing that honouring of that within you. We've done Kina, so that's Chen, so you've got that to look at. Erica, we've done your Radar. Rebecca, you have got Dargaz. Ooh, so just feeling into that one a bit because I'm quite deep into Athala and Radar. So Dargaz for me is bringing trust. It's about leaps of faith. Radar is moving forward, creating slowly over time, moving ever forward, creating rituals, setting the pace, knowing what's happening. Dargaz is all about not knowing what's happening and taking that leap of faith and doing the thing that in the moment just feels totally right and you just know it. And it is recognising that force as part of your power. That it's, again, when I was talking to Troy, we were talking about Ewas, weren't we? Sort of intuition and instinct. Dargaz rune is even more. It's not even as if you get an intuition or an instinct. It's just like, and go. I'm going to do this. I remember talking to a woman who I was thinking about doing a course, and it was a fair amount. It was a hefty investment of money, and I was doing that thing, sort of talking to her and everything. And eventually, I just looked at her and I just thought, I don't know why we're having this conversation because we both know I'm going to do it, don't we? And she was like, yep. And I was like, yeah, it was almost like my brain already knew I was going to do that course because it was absolutely imperative for me to do it, but my the rest of me needed to catch up you know? And that's what the conversation was about. It wasn't about me sort of thinking about whether I was going to do it or not. And so it's honouring that force within you. And within Dargaz as well, because it's the rune, it's got two halves within it. And again, I'll see if I can find it and I can show it for people who are not familiar with the rune. It is the rune of the day, but it represents day and night. It's not just daylight, it is the unity. Again, we talk a lot about unity, and you can see the Dargaz rune in the shape of the Manaz rune. So there's our Dargaz rune, and so it's the day and the night. So there is something else that the Dargaz rune gifts, which is the ability to accept everything. You know, we talked about that a little bit with, you know, bringing in like the Thurisaz rune, and you know, the way that society allows us to express some things and they're okay and acceptable and other things not. And Dargaz just goes, yep, the day is made up of some hours that are dark and some hours that are light, and sometimes they are longer and sometimes they are shorter, and that's okay. So there is a deep acceptance of everything as it is, without conflict, without trying to fix it, without saying this isn't the way that I want it to be. You know, it's saying that maybe tomorrow things will be a little bit different, but as of this moment, this is what it is. And recognising that as a power is what's important now with for you with Dargaz. Michelle, you have got Wunyo. So we did Wunyo for Suzanne, so I'm going to direct you to that. I would look into as well, Michelle, the word desire is coming into mind for me as well. It's that sense of, through the course of this week, just trusting your desires a bit. And it's not the North-Izzy rune, the necessity rune of North-Iz coming through and just going, oh, I've got to have this. It's a gentle, light, oh, I'd love to watch that film that I didn't, you know, I haven't watched for years, and that would really, you know, I haven't eaten that thing in a long time, but when I used to do that, it reminded me of this, and it's honouring those things and doing those things that's important. So listen to what I said about Wunyo for Suzanne, and then just add in that little bit of pleasure and desire, and letting yourself have those things through the course of this week. So Shelley, you've got Athala. We have covered Athala, haven't we? Yes, we've covered Athala with Marie, so I'm going to direct you to Athala. Shelley, is there anything else that comes through? Maybe just a little bit of... There's a slight money hint there, Shelley, that you might want to think into. So whereas Feyu is the flow of money that, you know, you can think about Feyu as being the flow of money. It's other things as well, like force and other stuff too, so don't quote me that it's just about money. That goes into the account, out of the account, into the account, out of the account, you know, each month as we get our incoming and our outgoings. Whereas the Athala is the stuff that we are able to invest. So we, you know, whatever it is that we have, and we're able to invest. And there's just a little bit of a push there to say, you know, obviously I don't know, you know, what your financial situation is, but tend to that, and you could think about that energetically. So for some people, and some people have worked on wealth manifestation before, there is a sense that even if you've got just a small amount of savings, you know, £1 or whatever it is, that you do that and you tend to it and you pay attention to it and you honour it, and that doing that increases your access to Athala energy and to the legacy, to your legacy and your estate. So, you know, sometimes we can feel like, I don't have enough to start, you know, investing, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But actually, it's sort of said, start small, grow big. Obviously, if you're at a point where you actually have, you know, something, so property, for example, is part of the Athala rune's magic, then you would look at, okay, how do I tend to and honour that, you know, in terms of thinking about, wow, you know, I built that, or I've created that, or I've managed that, I'm a steward of this as well. So you want to look a little bit. So there's a little bit more of the material in that than we had earlier for Athala. Hi Fawn! First time tuning in live. It's really lovely to have you. And your rune is Perthro. So we covered Perthro right at the very beginning with Esther. So if you weren't there, do look back at the recording for Perthro. Is there anything else that's coming through for Perthro? What I'm getting for you, Fawn, and perhaps it's just because you've come up on the live, and so they like to have a chat sometimes, and you do that. So the Perthro rune can be seen as being the well of Weird, the waters of Weird. And so when you came, the Nornir were whispering a little bit. There is a sense of like anticipation with them. So Urd, the Norn of that which was, Vagandi, the Norn of that which is, and Skuld, the Norn of that which will be, are. It might be worth your while perhaps doing a little bit of research about them, or if you have done any form of like journeying work, you could go and have a chat with them, or create a sacred space for them. I think that they want to talk to you, and I think that that's what is that about? I don't know if you do any form of seership form, whether with cards or intuitive seership or whatever it is, but they're suggesting that might be a path for you that the Nornir would like to facilitate for you. Oh, and I've lost everybody. That's unhelpful. There we go. My screen did something really weird then. Was that the Norns? I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like they're inviting you. They're inviting you in. So if that's something that you're interested in, it might be something that drop me a line if you're like, I have no idea what Maggie's talking about right now, and I can tell you a little bit more about what I'm seeing. But they're just coming in. So look at Estes anyway in terms of the Perthro energy. But you'll notice with Estes that it's about claiming the power within you. So I think that's probably why the Nornir are whispering. They're saying it's honouring that power within you, that Perthro power within you. And the Nornir are seers and weird weavers, and so that's I think why they're interested. Chris, hello. You've got Suelo, lovely Suelo energy. In some ways, it can be. There are some connections between Suelo and Rado in terms of that following step by step. Each part of guidance coming through. At one piece at a time. Suelo is following the instinct. So with Rado, there is a sense of following the road. It's almost like the heart connecting to the road, and you're following it step by step by step. Suelo is connecting to the sun and to the will inside with the solar plexus. There's a bit of mischief that comes in as well with the Suelo rune of sort of saying, whatever you want to express out in the world is what you should be expressing out in the world. It is about self-confidence and self-assurance. And there is a pleasure similar to Runyo. We've talked about Runyo already. It's more centered because it draws you into leadership. So it's almost like the bridge between Runyo, Suelo, and then Mana. So you've got Runyo. I'm ecstatic. I'm happy. I'm able to build harmony amongst people and do all of those things, make them feel that they belong, influence, and all of that lovely stuff. And then Suelo comes and it says, and I know where I'm leading them. I know where I'm going. I know the path. So trust your path. And don't question when it feels like, oh, am I just wanting to do this because it feels really good to me? No, surely that can't be right. No, surely it can't be that the thing that I want to do is actually the right thing to do as well. Comes through very strongly with the Suelo rune. So it's about stepping up into leadership in that sense, but doing so from a place of recognising that when we give of our right selves, when we feel fulfilment in what we're doing, that's where we need to be. No, it's not leadership where, I really don't want to do this, and this makes me feel really uncomfortable and it feels like a drag and it feels awful. We each have our own sphere of leadership. So for you, I would be looking back again, through the past, maybe a little bit of a review of where has Suelo showed up for me? Where have I felt the most fulfilled in my life? Maybe when I've been leading a project or other people are saying, I really feel that I'm called to do this. What was it that you were doing? What were the traits that you were showing? What were you doing with your hands? How were you showing up? What were people saying about you? All of those things. Do you recognise, this is who I am as a leader? And then Manaz comes along later and sort of integrates all of this stuff together and it becomes on the throne. So Suelo is still freer. It's more like the captain on the ship going, this way. So there is adventure, there is a little bit of risk, There is, following your heart and saying, if I'm following that true self, we've talked about removing armor and emotion, getting rid of emotions and doing all of those grieving processes on the inside, where I burn with my own golden light. Where is that taking me? And it can't be wrong. It can't be wrong. So I hope that's helpful for you, Chris. Darren says, is that one of Freya's cats? I'm hoping that they're my cats, but if Freya wants to come and claim them, as long as they can stay living with me, that's fine. I was hoping that they'd be a bit quieter, as they are now going outside of their cat flap, but they've just decided that this life is just incredibly exciting at this point, so that's what they do. Belle, just made it. So let me see, you have Iwaz. It has come up earlier, Belle, and I'm aware of time. So yes, what I would suggest is please do go back and look over the recording. It came up for Diane, and we were talking about claiming your power and your strength, recognising just how powerful and strong you are through the journey that you have made through the course of your lifetime. But go back and look over that piece. And I suppose for everybody as well, it's just recognising that there is time for review, and there's also time for saying, through the course of this week, how can this rune that's come up right now and said to me, claim this within myself, how does that support you? How might it be important for you to mobilise and use that energy through the course of the week ahead? So, yes, there are lots of ideas and thoughts floating around, Felicity, through the course of this one. It's been an extra long one. Diane says, thank you, spot on as usual, and can actually feel my strength for chanting. Oh, that's wonderful. Belle says, just heard the wonderful words of Diane, so that's great. Shelley says, thank you so much. Michelle, lovely reading, wonderful form, thank you. Thanks so much. Good. We have completed, everybody. Thank you so much. I know we've done a long session today, but I hope that it has been helpful for you all. It has been lovely to see you and to do what was a quite deep dive with all 4 of our rooms and lots of people, and I just felt the need to really go quite deep for most of you there, so I hope that you got something valuable from that. Looking forward to doing our introductory piece on the god Frey, who we're working with in the Hearth Space through the course of this month, working with natural law and the theme of natural law. We've already had our first class in the Inner Circle, which will be available for those of you who couldn't attend on Thursday this week. We'll be having our second class, which will be our story session with Frey, but I will do the introductory video so that you can, those of you who aren't in the Inner Circle and aren't able to attend the classes for whatever reason this month, then you'll still be able to get some value from what we're doing through the course of the month. So take care, everyone. See you soon. And I will try and get a desk. I've noticed that my desk is wobbling, so I'm sure that looks awful on your screens at the moment, so I'll look to do something about that as well. Okay. Take care, everyone.